Yes.
How many among the participants are registered as PhDs and are doing their PhD thesis work ongoing or so? You may raise your hands. Well, yes. Well, anyways, let's begin the session of this 7-day national level session on art of research. As a part of today's topic is on thesis, effective ways of writing thesis. So I am here, Dr. Vasudha, exploring on and giving you certain tips on how to write a thesis and how to make it more effective. So to begin the session with, what is a thesis? Can anyone? What is a thesis? Very good. What is a thesis? It is a comprehensive work which is being done by the researcher, a compilation of all his journey, his or her journey throughout, in compiling all this and submitting it to the university or any other body as required is referred as thesis. This thesis present a broader view of your work, a very comprehensive document of your work, which contains almost all your efforts, which are methodologically aligned, streamlined. It is a very comprehensive document, which is extremely sorry for the disturbance, audience participants. Please excuse me. Yes, a thesis is a comprehensive document. It is said to be a reflection of your total research work from the scratch till the end in a very systematic way. It is being presented, aligned, streamlined, so as to make it ready to submit to the university. It has got all the components on based on which the research work is carried on various components, and elaborative work is being presented in the thesis. This thesis has got a lot of information about all your ideas, all your research work, the methodology conducted. It is like, combining all your efforts and putting it in one umbrella and envelope and submitting it to the university based on which your work, based on which your research work will be evaluated. right? So, thesis is a representation of your mindset. Thesis is a representation of your research ideas behind. So, everything that happens to be, in the form of experience, events, all are compiled and put up in a single document. And that's where we call it to be a comprehensive, which includes a lot, so many diversified dimensions. But all those experiences, events, contents that you would be grabbing over a period of time in the research process, you will put them all in a very meaningful and a systematical way. And finally, you will end up submitting this piece of writing to the universities with an obligation, of course, to be fulfilled in order to get a PhD, award a PhD, or say if it is in the level of UG and PG, it's an obligation in order to submit and fulfill the requirement for the award of degree. So whatsoever could be the reason, if it is a research work which is conducted for the purpose of exploring a particular dimensions and then submitting to a society also, it happens to be a compiled work, a comprehensive, detailed work, thesis. So, thesis is an evidence. It is wherein all your efforts put in the form of various sections, identifying a research problem, say, um, exploring on literature review, setting up certain objectives, framing hypothesis, all this, your journey is put up in different sections in the document called thesis. And that is where it goes, and it is called as it is mostly referred as a comprehensive document which goes into number of pages, hundreds and thousands at times as well. So again, the number of pages document, it should be, depends on the audience to whom you are submitting, to the requirement to whom you are writing the document. So once you understand to whom you are submitting, then it becomes easy for you. Coming up slides, you will get an idea as to how and what you can, decide upon the thesis writing. Look at the characteristics of thesis, the major, requirements, significant requirements we can say for it. For it should be a thesis. Number one, it should be very formal document, um, formal document, which is of course a very systematic study conducted, a replica of your ideas, your researchable questions, the formulation of hypothesis, and very prominently recommended is it should be your original contribution. Contribution not just to your existing knowledge, which is confined to you, but contribution to the society as such, contribution to the nation, contribution to a particular segment or sector in an economy. Through the research, you happen to contribute significantly in terms of providing certain suggestions, etc. So it is supposed to be an original work. Besides all these three, the end, end requirement is, if it is the thesis, a document is to be written and submitted to the university, for UG and PG students say, it is an obligation, as I said, to be fulfilled for the award of their degree, UG or PG, or any other diploma courses. The same document, if it is drafted by a scholar who's registered with some university and is waiting for submission. Then this comprehensive work, a compilation of all his efforts, are put up in a document and submitted. And this is nothing but a thesis, which you can easily refer, or which you can call it as to be a thesis submission. So very oftenly we see at the end of the degree completion, or say master's degree, or say doctorate, we happen to compile the work and submit it. And also to add on to this, a researcher putting up a proposal to any organizations, NGOs, etc., or companies, say, or any sectors, organization when called for research. If in that case also, okay, which is being funded by them, the respective bodies that I'm talking about, which is being funded by them. So in that case also, at the end, there needs a submission. And the submission, what one will be doing is a document, a compilation of all your work. And this compilation of all your, ideas, etc., in a very systematic order is itself referred as thesis. All right. So let's move on. We have next types of thesis. Okay. So thesis is divided into three. By and large, there can be, many others also in addition. Basically, if you see fundamentally, undergraduates these days, this generation, undergraduate programs, diploma programs, they are, calling for some research work. They're involving the students into research work in order to develop the research skills, exhibit their research talent. Various, exhibitions are done, call for research ideas have been initiated by the universities and the autonomous colleges across in order to just uh, create an awareness, ensure that at the undergraduate level itself, the research is being introduced to the students. Followed by is master thesis. As we know, since quite long, any master's program that we take up has got a research work into it. Take whatever subjects, whether it is sciences, life sciences, or physical sciences, or any other courses under masters, had an obligation to do the research work. So master thesis is all about submission for any obligation to be fulfilled to get the master's degree. And then comes finally the doctoral thesis that we all know, which is also most commonly, popularly otherwise called as dissertations, right? We keep hearing people saying that we have submitted our dissertation and waiting for the reviews. Yes, you're absolutely right in that case. It is also referred as dissertation. And this is, if you look at and compare with the others, doctoral thesis is a very comprehensive and elaborate, extensive document, which is an original piece in efforts made by a researcher to contribute in a particular aspect to the society in general or particular in nature. So major work is done and it is put up in a document, and this document, when submitted to get a doctorate degree, we call it to be a doctoral thesis or dissertation. All right. Besides these three, there is another, dimension of types of thesis, that is wherein some NGOs, voluntary organizations, government, central, state government call up for research work. There are certain platforms like ICSSR, IBMR, and many other who call for, research contribution from the doctorals, uh, doctorals as well as postdocs, masters, those who have completed master's degree. There is a call for researchers from across these sections. And at the end, again, of those programs also, document is required to be submitted. When even at that level, when you are compiling your work and then submitting the document, that also is referred as, can be referred as thesis and dissertation, which you're submitting for the at the end of completing that obligation. It becomes a proof of your work for them. All right. Next, let's move on to purpose of a thesis. The very purpose of thesis is the essentials, you can say, is showcase your knowledge, exhibit what your ideas are in the form of a subject systematically in the book. Develop research skills. That is wherein you happen to end up critical thinking, evaluate the critical thinking, come up with certain aspects into it, and then finally move on to data analysis as to what kind of analysis that you can do. And then you also tend to do your writing skills. You end up polishing your writing skills, brushing your data analysis. You evaluate lot of possibilities that happens to be wherein you are involved in critical thinking, various possibilities, various dimensions. So this all process will enable a researcher to develop the research skill. See, not just writing, analysis as well as critical thinking is all covered in, writing a dissertation. Then finally comes at the end a reason to do the same. Obligation is okay, but why are you doing it? How is that going to help the society or a particular sector or a particular change that you're focusing in? How is it going to help? So, towards this, if you look at, we end up showing our efforts in the form of certain contributions. And these contributions give us insights, in depth knowledge of a particular subject, right? And we end up exploring so many, dimensions of the same subject. So the purpose of thesis writing is showcase our knowledge, develop research skills, and contribute either directly or indirectly, but contribute to the field which you have selected to do the research into. Now let's move on to explore about the various components, I would call it, which are the key essentials of any thesis work, be it uh, undergraduate level, master's level, or doctoral level, or any other. The key components remain same, common, uniform, and those are: number one, title. Title is a reflection of the whole document that you're going to put up. A very crisp line. So, title is a very brief one line statement, you can say, which shows or reflects what amount of work is done, what is it all about, etc. Needs to be coined very carefully, title. And then comes abstract page. The thesis includes title and then abstract. Abstract is nothing but a brief summary a brief summary of your whole research work, the methods that you've adopted, the findings that you made. All these are summarily summarized way. They are put up in the thesis work. Okay, all those who don't say have time to go into the detailed thesis, they can simply read the abstract and know what amount of work is done. To all those who just wanted to know an overview of your work, abstract would do good for them. Okay, that is the abstract page. Next comes introduction. This introduction is all about the problem that you have raised, the objectives that you have framed, the research work that you carried on, all those put together is introduction page, where you introduce the complete research work again, maybe globally, national level, and then a particular aspect, industry, or say anything that you are focusing on is written. Okay, and the next component of a thesis would be literature review. What is literature review? Literature review is a discussion of past papers, past, work. This is a checkmate. This is a quick check where you will be comparing your ideas with that of other previous past works. With this, you will know the status of your work, whether it is already done, if it is done, what dimensions they have covered. Could you carry it in an innovatively, the same work? Otherwise, you should take a call to change it because you don't want to do duplication, you don't want to do a duplication work. So that way, research literature review pages would become a key component in the thesis. Then comes results page. Results about all those data analysis, all those learnings that you happen to do and analyze about the secondary data. Okay, they are all put up in a very systematic way in a thesis. Then comes discussions. Discussion may you happen to interpret the results, compare them with the previous studies, and come to a conclusion as to what now you will be able to do and what is the current status of it. Then comes the conclusion pages where you try to summarize the whole research and suggest for the future research. Followed by comes the references. References are the list of all those sources from where you have borrowed, from where you have copied certain amount of data, certain amount of content. All these needs to be put up in the form of reference section. And this reference section is wherein you are citing someone else's work. So due acknowledgement is due to all those authors. So you need to, give a thank, mention a thanks to you in the form of references. You have to quote all those references in your research. So key components of thesis includes title, abstract pages, introduction, literature review. These are the very important elements. Okay, I hope all of you understand this. Then we move on to the next section of this session, that is stages of thesis writing. The whole thesis writing, that is an extensive work, elaborative, comprehensive words are used, right? So when it is so extensive, it is so elaborate, comprehensive, then how it is. Okay, so let me explain you in the form of stages. Okay, stage one is titled as preparation and planning. Stage one is titled as preparation and planning. So to start a research work, you will have to pass by this stage, that is one where you happen to prepare and plan for your research idea, which is divided into three again here: choosing a topic, defining research questions and goals, and the thirdly, conducting a literature review. First, choosing a topic. Select an area of interest aligned with your field of study. This particular segment, you have to focus only on preparation. That is your idea, whatever you wanted to, do research on, that you need to pick up and ensure feasibility, validity check, and then is it valid enough to conduct a research on, and then choose and confirm a topic. Okay, for example, from climate change, the impact of renewable energy policies on carbon emissions. So, like this, you need to come up and come down to select a particular topic from the broader area and diversified ideas that you had to do on with research. The next, focus on defining a research question and a goal. Here at this level, in the stage one, the researcher is supposed to formulate some specific and exclusively measurable, researchable question, which based on which you will have to draft the hypothesis. For example, if you have a researchable question like how do renewable energy policies impact carbon emissions in urban area? Then the connected hypothesis would be stronger renewable energy policies lead to significant reduction in carbon emissions. This is a statement of hypothesis. So like this, you'll slowly develop your researchable questions which are aligned to formulate the hypothesis and objectives also. Next session, now you will start exploring the literature review. This is intended to identify a research gap and justify your work. That is, in a different way, if you, in a very simpler form, if you want to tell me, let me tell you this way. Whatever your idea of research is, if you check back and see whether any research done in these areas, if done, what are their titles, what are their variables, what is their time, where is the geographical location, all these elements, by exploring on these elements, you as a researcher will know the real status of your idea. That is, it will give you an clarity as to what amount of work is already done. Sometimes you may encounter a similar work. Now you should take a call and see whether you can continue doing the similar work again. If yes, then how is it different with that previous work? This reason you need to locate, you need to, identify and make yourself ready to defend on these lines. Because at the end, when you are defending your work, whether it is UG, PG, or say doctoral, defension stage will come where you are asked several questions on to why did you pick up. Literature review will save you. This reviewing of previous work will enable you to understand the previous works, their findings, their areas of focus. And if you ask me, and if you ask me how best you can do the literature review. Take the help of Google databases, take the help of certain softwares like JSTOR. These will help you to do the literature review very systematically. All right. Then this is about your first stage, that is preparation and planning of your research work. The next, structuring the thesis. Now, structuring the thesis here is you need to give an outline. You need to draft an outline for writing a thesis. So far, you may be involved in collection of data, literature review, analysis, processing, so much of work you've done, and you've been saving them all. Now the time comes, stage two. You had to sit and start drafting, right? Now, how are you going to do that? That is the stage two. Structuring, outlining, drafting outline, a program to be followed. How are you going to present things in a very effective way without losing any essential components? So keep in view at this level three things. Number one, outline it logically. Now, the universities, the respective colleges will give you a research format which you need to all follow, the structure, which uniformly is the same across. The same outline is followed by almost everywhere across. It's a slight 1% changes, and that is nothing but the first slide that we've discussed about title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussions, conclusions, references, and appendices. So you need to, these are already set in chronological order. If you want, you can write down. All these are aligned in the systematic order, chronological order, which needs to be adopted. Same way, no change. All right. Next section here in this is developing a thesis statement. The idea of research. So you need to now start collecting the data, and you need to draft it, refine it, and then put them accordingly in various sections. So you need to develop it. And then define the methodology, the last section, wherein you already prepare a research design which gets approval by the panel. Details of various methods you will be mentioning in the research design with respect to data collections, surveys, experiments, case studies, okay, tools that you are going to use, the methods, the kind of analysis that you would be focusing on, all these in detail you will be writing in the research design, right? So, and that you will be doing in stage two. Just to, in a brief schedule, you will be outlining, developing a thesis statement, and defining everything in detail in the methodology. All right, next comes the stage three, where we move on to give, a shape to the outline. And the stage three is titled as writing and developing the content. Writing and developing the content involves writing introduction, need and significance, followed by research objectives, drafting the literature review, that is a summary of all the key studies, the past studies, highlighting gaps in research and what exactly you're trying to address issues on, the methodology that you've been adopting, all these in detail you will be writing, explaining the results, that is your interpretations in the form of charts, graphs, tables, and with the very, clarity and precision, you will draft all these results. Then the next section will be focused on discussion, which includes interpretations of the results based on the objectives, comparisons of findings with the previous studies, highlight if any implications, and end up writing the limitations of the study. And then finally comes the conclusion, wherein you'll summarize all the main points, share your contribution of research. What did you contribute, in what way, in what form, general perspective as well as particularly. And you end up by suggesting next, people, next researchers on to which lines the next study in the same particular area could be, taken up and should be focused on. So that way you will end up writing and developing content in the stage 3. And the fourth stage involves refining and finalizing. Now, by now, a researcher is ready with complete thesis and amount of content also. He or she is probably ready, the researcher is ready. Now the time comes about formatting, wherein editing and revising happens. So there is a lot of, as you, by now you should be aware of that the thesis is a comprehensive, detailed document, right? So in so said detailed document, what is important, what is not so important, irrelevant, relevant, aligning things in a very chronological order, making it more meaningful, streamlining objectives, hypothesis, and the data analysis is of very important. So this stage involves a researcher into doing all this sort of job: editing, revising, formatting, proofreading, referencing. Referencing, if you look at, is a citation of the previous works which you are referring. And the popular way of referencing is to do it with APA style, MLA style, Chicago style, etc. But the popular one goes with MLA style. So, briefly, in this stage, you will be simply, the simple word is not sufficient, I can say, because it is one of the most challenging job. The whole work is one side, and editing, refining, proofreading, again refining, revising, something you are not convinced with, you putting it in a chronological order, no connection you are finding, you are doing editing again, formatting. So this is the most, challenging job. And the stage 4 involves completely all about refining, finalizing, etc. All right. Next comes stage 5, that is submission and defensing. Submission and defensing here is, once you're done with all your proofreading work, refining, editing, formatting, then time comes for you all to end up submitting. Ensure when you're submitting certain do's and don'ts. Follow the deadlines, include all the required details to be included into the front page, last pages. Some exclusive pages are directed according to the university norms, etc. You need to follow those guidelines and then do design it accordingly. Then comes the thesis defensing. This stage is wherein you will be called, as a researcher, you will be called for defending your work. So for this, you need to prepare yourself very briefly. A presentation should be made ready, and you should be in a position to anticipate certain questions, regular questions that are asked. You need to collect them, prepare accordingly, and practice. And then finally, Don't compromise on contribution. That because that is something, whatever could be your subject domain, but at the end, for any researcher, the contribution is for surely asked. Prepare yourself to defend and justify them based on industry, sector, general, and specific. Okay. So certain things to keep in mind while drafting the thesis work, and they're all put up in the bullet forms here on the slides. That is points to ponder on to effective thesis writing. That is major works when you're reviewing. See, now you've seen the various stages, right? All stage 1 to stage 5, how you can progress in writing the thesis. But there are certain nodes where you can focus more on, give ample time in order to make it more meaningful, more attractive, and more relevant. And those are points to ponder. Okay, stage. That is when you're doing literature review, focus on international work equally with that of national level. Don't have a balanced reviews. Don't only focus and have a reviews of national level and ignore internationally, or vice versa. Have a balanced reviews. Suppose if you're asked to do 100 reviews, have 50 international and 50 national, or 70 is to 30, 75 is to 25. Have a balanced. And for this also, prepare yourself to justify at the time of defensing. Okay, work on how unique your work is. What is that innovation that you brought in? Okay, it could be attributable to the culture, linguistic, geographical, time, anything it could be for that matter, but do dedicatively assign some quality work in drafting uniqueness of your project, of your research work, okay? Then comes the objective, a role of study, structural framework, identification of research gaps. All these are quite common, but yes, common, yet they are very important. And at the time of defending, before submitting a thesis and at the time of defending your work, you try to look again and again in these areas and try finding, if you find any problem into it, if it is not convincing, etc., redraft it before submitting. Once submitted, prepare yourself to justify those words. Okay, those lines. And these are research design, hypothesis, methodology, theories which you have understood. Some innovative or path-breaking aspects which you have touched in research, some contribution that probably you happen to make, contributions divided, industry specific contributions, general and particular, like that you can divide and present it. It becomes more easy for people to evaluate your work, your idea. It shows how transparent and aligned your research work is. Then policy making, of course, some outcome towards policy making for government, private bodies, industries, etc., organizations needs to be formulated and drafted. Feasibility of the proposed study also, and then end up focusing on writing the scope of future research, which includes what all challenges you happen to face in your present work, what made you, not explore any other dimensions, etc. Such experiences you need to share it in the form of scope for future researches. All right. Now again, let's move on to briefly see in detail. You have seen how a thesis work should be done in which is divided into several stages. and the very important levels where you can focus on is discussed. Now let's move on to discuss briefly about what exactly the thesis is again. It's a long piece of academic writing. It is based on original work. A thesis is usually submitted at the end of, at the end of any degree. Could be bachelor's, master's, or say doctorals. Excuse me. A thesis reflects your idea and it shows your capacity of being an independent research. All this, if satisfied, you call it as to be a thesis, okay? Then see what a thesis contains. They are broadly categorized into these sections. Front matter, which includes title pages. Again, in detail, I will show you what all front pages will include. Literature review methodology, results, discussions, conclusions, and end matter. Now let us see front pages. What does it include? Front pages include title page. This title page again will include the title page format should have these all elements into it. That is dissertation title, your research title, your name, type of document, department, institution to whom you're submitting, and you belong to also, degree of program that you are doing, date of submission, along with that, logos, images of your universities, etc. also will be put up. Next page comes of acknowledgement, where this page is all about acknowledging all those people who have been helping you throughout your journey from the scratch till the document is ready, and even later for defensive work also. So who all are those people? They can be anybody in the demographic, your supervisors, friends, family, including pets. Now, in what way pets are involved, you may be having a question on. Tolerating our, busyness, tolerating our involvement. We may not give them sufficient time to our own families, friends, etc. Even those people can be thanked for their patience with us, tolerating all this while our aggression, involvement, no time with spending with them, all this, you can acknowledge all these people around you. It is definitely a not formal document. It is very informal, and it is, in other words, if you ask me, it is very personal. Okay, and that is where we see in some textbooks, research works, etc. One page is exclusively dedicated to parents, to God, to wife, children's, etc. That's the acknowledgement of all those that they bear with us during our journey in the research. Move on to the next page of abstract, which should include the main topic, aim of research, the methods which are used, a summary, a conclusion, a brief conclusion, but not an introduction. Okay, it should not be an introduction. It should be a summary of your whole research work. All right. Introduction will again come into main content, that is unit 1, chapter 1. So introduction will not form here. It is an abstract, not an introduction page. Okay. Table of content. Table of content of, from page 1 to last page, what all tables you have created, what all contents you have included. You can list them all manually, or even you can take the help of some softwares. These content page should be very clear and consistent with the heading. Suppose unit 1, and in unit 1 you have subheadings, and you can use 1.1, and in suppose 1.1, if you have any subheadings further, Then you can go for 1.1.1, 1.1.12, like this, so on and so forth, you can use it. 5.1, 5.2, fifth unit, second heading, like this, table of content needs to be very clear and consistent, okay? Next page is all about abbreviations. Abbreviations are all those, short forms that have been used in the complete thesis work. They are to be put up alphabetical order, okay? And very popular abbreviations which you think as a researcher, because it's your work, you are a researcher, right? If you think they are already very popular and no need to put up, can be ignored. Okay. Then comes a glossary page. And this page includes special terms, like in case of commerce and management, some specific financial terms, commerce terms, business related terminology. Not everybody is well versed with this, right? Meanings. So even though you might be knowing, others, readers might be knowing, but it is duty of a researcher to give a one line brief meaning about those terms which you happen to use in the research work. And again, all these terms, special terms, you need to arrange them alphabetically. Like in the dictionary, how they will be arranged, that way. Okay. Then comes the next section, which is main part. The main part includes introduction. How to write introduction? It's all about your research topic, background work, scope, relevance, questions, objectives, and your structure of the complete work. Overview of your chapterizations can be included. The next comes with literature review, wherein you have done past works, you have reviewed. Those you have to critically examine, evaluate, and then analyze, and then put them in a very logical way so that the reader will understand, your reviews easily. Very, detailed, but at the same time precisely without losing any essential elements of their work. Okay, next comes a theoretical framework, which is focused on the various theories, concepts, and the models which are involved into it, about your broader domain of the subject in with respect to that. In case, if any, you will be putting up your methodology, as you all know, includes the data collection, methods, how did you collect, which tests you applied, and what are the various tools that you have used. All these you need to put up in the heading. Then comes the results section where you show the findings, align them based on the research questions which are asked, and end up giving certain findings in the form of graphs and tables, writing the interpretations. Okay, don't mistaken this with interpretations that you draw. This will go into the next session, that is discussion session, where you will focus on writing your interpretations. Your observation now takes in the goes in the form of interpretations, expectations, established. You as a researcher, what new framework you established, innovated, all these you need to write it and show it under the discussion part. Then comes the conclusion, the main answers to the researchable questions, make suggestions for future research, show all the contribution of the work, etc. in the conclusion section. All right, next comes the end part of your thesis, main thesis work, and that is, that includes two sections, that is references and appendices. References are all those, again I repeat, reviews that you have that you have done. You need to give the citations of all those, and in the APA style only. Maybe it varies from university to university. Check out before writing what is the accepted style in your university, and then accordingly do it. But the most popular and widely used is APA style. You can also take the helps of certain tools for generating the citations online. Then comes the appendices. Appendices is a page where any data, content that you couldn't find place to insert into your thesis work, but yet you feel those are important. Okay, you feel those are important at the same time, they are very essential to support your work. Such piece of contents, tables, graphs, etc., datas can be put up in the appendices. And these can be again, if you have lot many varieties of appendices, then say you can put them under title as Appendix 1 as table, Appendix 2 as graph, Appendix 3 as survey questions, and any other. Like this, you can segregate them and you can present them in your thesis. All right. So this was all about my presentation on the way of effectively writing a thesis. How to effectively write thesis. It is divided into stages. A very quick recap. It is divided into several, parts. That is part one, front pages, part two, main pages, part three, end part. So if you focus on these lines and then do take up your job of, structuring your thesis work, I feel you will definitely, this session would help you in doing this same. Now the session is open for questions. If any questions, please feel free to raise your questions.